is a presentation of the Match Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. We'll talk all things Hokie wrestling with Coach Kevin Dresser and his staff. Now, let's join your host, three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, Jason Bryant.
A little overdue episode of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling here from the Fargo Dome in Fargo, North Dakota, joined by one of the two newest official members of the Virginia Tech Wrestling staff, assistant coach Mike Zadick. Mike, welcome back to the program. The last time you were on and your beard were on, we were in Fargo right after wrestling North Dakota State. Now it's just we've come full circle. Now you're fully on staff. You're making a home in Blacksburg. And we're doing this thing in Fargo again.
Yeah, we're not at, where were we at, Buffalo Wild Wings maybe or something?
Well,
I'm
usually everywhere at Buffalo Wild Wings in this town. But yeah, we were at the other one by the mall. But
now in the Fargo Dome, yep. Thanks for having me.
So, you're officially on staff, full-time coach. You went through the volunteer system. And what made you look at this position and be like, you know what, I really like Blacksburg. I think I want to be part of this staff.
Doing the proper channels or taking the right steps into the program. Last year it was a staff program already. They created the volunteer position for me. It worked out well for me just to, relate to the team, see how it went, relate to the coaching staff, see if we all got along well. And there was a lot of good things happening with the athletes and myself as far as development. And it was just kind of that next growth step after the season. And then Coach Hoffman ended up heading over to Chattanooga, and then just naturally opened up that opportunity to not only build in the room, but get on the road and do some recruiting as well.
It was kind of a magical season when you look at the history of Virginia Tech wrestling. Boom, there's a trophy. There's Madison Square Garden. There's a great number of All-Americans. I mean, it was a really a good year. It was a great year. I mean, for any program standards. And how much of that really kind of maybe is like, you know what, there's something special going on here in Blacksburg. I definitely feel like I'm a part of this and I want to stay a part of this.
That whole scenario was kind of answered a lot of the questions I had as a coach, and I had personally in what we were doing on a daily basis in the room. There's a lot of different ways of coaching right now that's going on and with programs, and the one thing that I was very pleased and thankful with Coach Dresser was being able to be very insightful in the room and be able to inject a philosophy and then test it, see how it's going, see if we're succeeding with it, if we're failing with it. And one thing, he stepped back away and let me do a lot of that, and Coach St. John and Coach Roby. And for me as a coach, seeing the highs and the lows throughout the season and then peaking. And I think the biggest thing for us was peaking, because that tournament could have went south fast, and it didn't. And it showed the grit of what we were kind of preaching and going through the season. And when the team ended up doing what they did, as coaches, you look back and say, all right. And that's really what I did. I sat back in my chair and said, hey, this isn't a national championship, but they did believe on what we're saying and believed in what we were doing and executing, and they proved that those gains were made. It's not something where this program just woke up one day and ended up fourth place. It was a good foundation Coach Dresser and Roby had down in the past, being in the top 10, and then just a little different insight, and it catapulted us up with the new staff all working together. And that, to me, showed promising results, even more so in the future.
And when you look at the dynamic of the staff, you've got two guys that are, you've got Coach Dresser's the head coach, and Tony Roby's had head coaching experience and a very well-respected assistant even before he became a head coach at Binghamton and then came to Virginia Tech. And then you and Derek St. John, the newest official addition to the staff as well. You got a lot of personalities there that know a lot of different things and a lot of different upbringings. How do you guys, how did you really mesh with that staff? Because Dresser's got different ways of doing things than Roby have, and then they balance things together. And then now here's you coming in with a completely different coaching style, and then wrestling on the Olympic team and having that freestyle acumen. I mean, how did you make that work? I mean, they're square pegs and round holes.
Yeah.
How did you make them all kind of smooth ovals?
That was kind of the leadership of Dresser bringing us in and having the flexibility and the comfort with maybe stepping away as far as in the room. And the reason I say that is Coach Roby and Coach Dresser have been there for 10 years. I mean, they know the kids in the room. They know them. They know what's going to happen. They know the style of coaching. They know the pattern, so to speak, of what the year is going to be like. And then coming in and being able to step back and have a guy like me come in that's different, but yet at first to me, I was watching more like make sure first of all, they got to respect you. You got to gain their respect right away. And that happened. And once you do that, then you can start pushing forward with, instead of them thinking, well, this crazy guy, what the hell's going on? I mean, they actually fed off it very well. And that as a coach, when you have that, when you just look somebody in the eye and they're going to like you or they're not. And what happened with this team is, like I said, Dresser, he left the room open for some different influence. We got to take advantage of that. And that's where it really stemmed from is maybe a little different philosophy. And the team was directed not in their normal way. And I think they liked it, and I think they fed off it. And, come March, the results showed. And that's something now we look at each other all and say, all right, here's what we're doing. Let's build off this. And the realism of becoming a national championship team is right there. And that's the belief is obviously, the attitude and the belief of it's important. And they believe now.
How much do you enjoy coaching?
I love it. I love it. I love everything about it. I mean, I like seeing people do well. I like helping people, I guess, whether it's coaching or helping somebody with a flat tire on the side of the road or pulling them out of the ditch.
Trading baseball cards.
Hey, trading baseball cards. Sometimes, that gets more business.
Yeah.
But,
I wouldn't trade baseball cards with Dresser either.
Yeah. But no, it's that part of it is just being able to help and build. And to me, my reward is the gain in the athletes. And I tell you what, I can take a guy like Jared Hott and I can work with him in the morning, I can work with him in the afternoon, and I can see him wide-eyed, and I can see every workout of his getting better. And when I see that happen throughout the year, so you see a week long getting better, and then you see 2 weeks, and then in a month he's like a completely different wrestler. That's the rewards I get out of it. I can sit back and smile and be like, we're really doing something. We're actually, it's like building a threat, a national threat, or whatever the right word's not coming to my mind right now, but being able to invest and put all this into it and then have the rewards of it. Well, my rewards is watching him have a lot more wins than he is losses. And this year he did that and overcome some people that maybe he hadn't beaten before. So that's what gets, as a competitor, you say, well, once you compete and then you're still really competitive, but you get competitive as a coach, and that's your win. Like, it's not about necessarily the athlete winning every time, but him winning overall and making those gains. That's a win as a coach to me. And I don't know, it's addicting.
There was some personality. I mean, the Hokie wrestling team this year, several different types of personalities. You had some huge wins. Zach Epperly coming back after a first round loss and just bonusing his way to a third place finish, and then you have countered by the disappointment of Joey Dance getting hurt, not placing. And when you're in those situations as a coach, and you sit there and you want to see kids do well, and you're excited about kids doing well or coming back after adversity, and then you have to match that with the disappointment that you share with these athletes when they don't have a great performance. How does that work with your mind? I mean, how does that tear at you, or how do you balance those two emotions when you know that you don't have a whole lot of time to dwell on a win or a loss because you've got another kid you've got to train and care about?
Yeah, I think it's just your own personal mindset. Individuals are all going to be different, obviously. Probably no different than war. You're sitting there getting shot at, and your best friend gets shot in the head, and he's laying there next to you dead. But I mean, you want to sit there and cry, but you can't. I just got done watching Band of Brothers, so I can use that as an analogy.
I was going to say, where's that reference coming from here?
It's coming from Band of Brothers. I tell you what, there was just a lot of things that were relative in that.
I got a lot of Dexter references. I don't think they fit here.
Yeah, no. But no, for me, being in Iowa, I got sick every year after the national tournament. Like, I had mono my first year. I had strep throat the next year. I mean, because my emotions, they're on my sleeve. So I'm warped. I'm done. After the tournament, I'm done. This year, I actually felt better than I had in a long time. And there was some gut-wrenching moments in a negative way. And then there's some really good highs that at the time you just have to continue to move forward and build and keep a steady mind about it, because the next guy's got to get up and you got to get him up, and that's part of your job. The other guy, you got to make sure he gets things turned around. It hurts and he knows it, and you know it, but he also at that point needs a kick in the butt and some positive reinforcement and get things turned around back in his favor. So it's just a balance. I really don't know how to answer that question as far as how to handle it. It's just, I guess, my personality on how I handle things. But yeah, it's tough. And like I said, it wears at you.
And there was a little bit of the gap in time after you stopped coaching at Iowa, and then you get in the college mats again in Virginia. Did you ever think you'd coach college again before this opportunity showed up? And, you've got a year to think on it, and you're like, do you feel like this was the best decision to get back into coaching and go to a place like Virginia Tech?
Did I think I was going to coach again? I probably did. Yeah. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was going to be one of those things that I was so hungry to, and I love it, that whatever was going to happen and come my way, it was just something I was going to look at and see how it was and make a decision off of it. And this just happened to happen. I happened to get the call, and I checked it out. And I remember, I've said this before, but I remember telling some friends that I wasn't going to go to Virginia, but I'm going to go check it out anyway. And I went and checked it out, and it was about everything completely opposite of me. And I think that was one of the reasons I went, because it was completely out of my comfort zone. So I'm like, you know what? All right, here we go. I'm doing it. And,
it was volunteer for 1 year. You're like, basically it was 1 year. All right, let's try it. And then obviously something clicked.
Well, you can sit and, a volunteer is a volunteer. I don't care about the title. A coach is a coach, and that's the biggest thing is, there's ways. Yeah, you can call me a volunteer, a coach here at Tech last year, but, I had a pretty nice salary that I'm not going to complain about. and a lot of these people, if we're going to do a little blurb here and educate, these volunteer coaches across the country they're on staff at the university.
They're not eating ramen noodles
exactly.
and Easy Cheese. I think Wyatt Schultz got some Easy Cheese down here.
There's some pretty darn good volunteer coaches in this country making some pretty darn good money.
Yeah.
But with that said, it's just I didn't really care as much as the title. I never really had a title at Iowa either. I mean, I did. I had a volunteer title. I had a strength title. I was coaching in the wrestling room. I was coaching in the weight room. I was coaching in school. I was coaching out in the social life. That's coaching, and I think no matter where I go, that's what it's going to be about. Honestly, this job I just accepted at Virginia Tech is the first full-time real job I've had in my entire life. As far as, I was at Iowa for 15 years, and I never was a full-time employee, ever. So at 38 years old and my second year here, I was offered a, full-time benefits, insurance, all that stuff. So,
putting this in perspective, your first full-time job comes at 38.
Yes, sir. You got benefits and all that stuff? Hey,
you actually had to do some real paperwork for this job.
Oh no!
Which is why this episode is coming out as late as it did.
Yeah,
we were trying to get Mike on here about a month ago, and then there's legalese and paperwork, but
they had to do a background check, and they just weren't believing.
Well,
it
it's
was
kind of
me.
hard to find your address. Was like left third tree, Middle Montana was your actual address.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it was.
What is it like having indoor plumbing now? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I tell you what, I still don't. I've been living out of a truck now. We've had Derek St. John and we had a really nice place there in Blacksburg, and it was a month-to-month deal, and ended up getting sold on us, and then we just figured we'd pick something up quick, and I tell you what, we never did.
There's a couple guys in Blacksburg that have properties that you may or may not know pretty well, but anyway, we'll
Yeah, well, I'm kind of, you think, a lot of people don't know that part about me, but, I can live in the woods, and I can live in a tent, and I can do what I was doing for years, but when I moved to the city, by God, my place is going to be nice. I like nice things. So when I'm roughing it, as rough as you can get, but when I'm in the city, I want a nice place, and that I'm kind of picky when it came to finding a good home. We just actually closed a deal on one last week, but yeah, I hold out.
When we get back to this past season, and you were getting out of your comfort zone, and then the Virginia Tech Iowa thing, it seemed like that there was that issue from the transfers from a couple years ago. It kind of died down, and then all of a sudden, this national duels thing comes up, and it was the most listened to podcast of any episode of any team show that we had, and it was one of the bigger news stories. And then all of a sudden, the Iowa Virginia Tech feud came back to the forefront, and all that stuff from years back was being dredged back up. And we had some fighting words, we had some fans getting after it. I mean, and from your perspective, and you're like, I'm right in the middle of all this too. Did it kind of make it fun a little bit to be like, wow, we've got some controversy here. People are talking about wrestling more than just wrestling. I mean, you could say what you want about personalities, but there was definite a buzz about Virginia Tech wrestling and Iowa wrestling. I mean, these are two programs that have never been in the same stratosphere when it comes to being competitive at the national level, and now they are, and there's talk about them. I mean, that's got to be an interesting predicament, knowing your history with both places.
Yeah,
Phil Collins, by the way.
Hold on, no.
I had to lighten up that question.
The question, what do you want the answer? I mean, tell me what you want to hear here.
The whole scenario was just completely
fun?
Interesting, and it had to be kind of fun.
No, it's definitely interesting. I'm not.
I guess it also depends on which side.
The elephant in the room, or whatever you want to say. There's, it was no coincidence that I went to Virginia Tech and Derek St. John did, and Dan Dennis was coming too, and that created this. Wow, these Iowa people are leaving and they're going to Virginia Tech, or
wow, of all places to go.
Yeah, there's people that said things to me about it. And
it's like when Jimmy was applying for jobs, and he applied for the Virginia Tech job too before he got the one at Oregon State. So there was this is going back, 10 years.
I don't think Jimmy applied for that. If you really know the roots of that, I think they called him, but I think he told them no. So to be correct on that, I don't think really Jimmy. But just to say, yeah, there's definitely. I had some calls to me right away when I was going there, and honest to God, it was one of the things that they randomly called me up, and I wasn't going to go. And when I went there, I bonded with the athlete very well, and said, you know what the hell? It's the complete opposite of what I'm doing. I want to coach. They reached out to me. I appreciate that, so I'm going to do it in a year and see how it goes. And that's what happened. It was nothing about, the
intent was not to stick it to whatever, but
no,
back of your mind, I'm sure that probably was.
Okay. It actually isn't. It's funny that that's what people said to me, but no, it's just happened to be the way everything felt.
It could have been NC State, could have been North Carolina, could have been any place.
It could have been anyone. It could have been Arizona State, Penn State, Oregon State. You and I, it don't matter.
Well, if it was Penn State, you'd have to give Hale some of your hair so he can.
No, it was just the way it fell out. But, with that said, moving forward, I'm going to bring what I know. That's why I was bringing some of the staff I wanted with me, and Dresser was all about that. And, it's something to build off of. And Derek St. John, he's a great coach, and that's why I wanted to have him around. So he'd be a great extension with our club. But, that was just one of the things the people I know, they're going to be the guys I was in the trenches with, and that's Iowa people. And that's where I was at, and that's where I built a lot of my adult life and my wrestling life. So, yeah, if I'm going to go have my own program or coach somewhere or say maybe we should bring this guy in, I'm probably going to bring somebody that I'm well informed about. And it just so happens there was a past at Virginia Tech that happened to be Iowa people. And it just so is Dresser's Iowa person too. All this Iowa connection.
I mean, going back to Keith Moreland too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pre-Brands era too.
Yeah, and Wes Hand was there. And I mean, there's a lot of Iowa people that's ran through that program. And it's just the way it fell. Heck, I just came in. I'm like third generation or something, fourth generation.
You're not blazing any new trails here.
No, just that connection and that branch, I guess, in the sport. But was it talk? Yeah, it was talk. Was it buzz? It was a buzz. I was honestly completely away from it. I was worrying about our team because whether we got the nod to go into Carver Hawkeye Wrestle for that national dual championship, there's not a lot of teams that go into Carver Hawkeye Arena and beat them.
Right.
And I've known that for years. So was it going to be a slam dunk? Did it look good on paper? Yeah, it looked good on paper. But are we going to just go in there and beat Iowa Hawkeyes? That's not a lot of teams that can do that.
You know the thing about Carver Magic exists.
Exactly. There is. So that whole situation was what it was, and you move on from it. But I think everybody involved with that whole thing really knows things, and more than the public, and it is what it is there.
All right, let's circle back to why we're here right now. This is the USA. For those who are not familiar with the summer wrestling scenarios that we have here in this country, USA Wrestling and the USA Wrestling Junior National Championship started back in 1971. It was freestyle. It actually started in Iowa City, 1971. Then we got added Greco 72. Then it's basically lived here in Fargo for the last 20-something years. Best high school kids in the country. And this is freestyle and Greco. It's the Olympic styles. And when college coaches come here, it's not just like a couple college coaches are here. This is who's who of college wrestling will be recruiting the wrestlers on this tournament. And when it comes to Fargo and you're looking for talent, okay, state titles are great. If you place in this tournament, you're on everybody's radar. And what's it mean? How important is it for colleges to really hit this tournament year in, year out?
I think it's good just from the athlete perspective, the family perspective, seeing the representation of the programs. And it's fun. If you're a fan of wrestling and you're a college coach, obviously, this is the place to be. It's the biggest high school tournament in the country. And the enjoyment of it all, of, like you said, who's who in coaches, who's in athletes and officials. And I mean, it's the Super Bowl really of high school wrestling and really all wrestling for the United States, because they're pretty much here. Granted, we have an Olympic team getting ready to compete and some world teams getting ready to compete at the age group level that probably aren't in the building but are coming and going. But yeah, no, for me, it's great. I see, when you start wrestling when you're 5 years old, I'm looking at people here that I saw when I was 5 years old still, and they're at this tournament. So there's a lot of family and friends you have in the sport here. But the main thing, I guess, the draw is these athletes and making sure your eye is on every one of them, and opportunities that, these kids that aren't on Flow Wrestling every day and aren't on the mat.com that show up to this tournament all of a sudden, have something in them that you see when you can look at them, in person live and be able to build something out of. That's important. And there's kids every year that pull out of this tournament that can do great things.
Yeah, and a lot
just
of kids.
An opportunity for us to, just like moving cattle, get them all under the same roof and being able to see them.
Okay, so that's not a Band of Brothers reference. That's actual an outdoors reference. No, we're talking about and Greco and freestyle. Greco obviously not that similar to what we wrestle in the collegiate styles, but Montana kids coming to Virginia Tech made the Greco finals. We've got, he's signed a letter of intent so we can actually comment on him. But I mean, kids like that, you just show, even in the wrestling Greco, you can see this kid that they got that toughness, and you sit there. I mean, you've got to love to see a kid come out and get there in the finals again. In Greco, which is just a fighting style, you got to love that.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Here's the thing: Greco freestyle, or whatever you want to call it, when you're here on a big stage, it's a big stage. So it's only, I don't want to say practice, but it's preparation for a big stage later in life, whether it's you giving a speech in front of a board to get something approved, or are you stepping in the NCAA finals or the Olympic trials or the Olympic championship finals? It's a big stage. They're all big stages. And this is, it's a stepping stone to it. Whether you don't ever go to college and compete at a big stage, maybe you get done and you become a fireman and you become in the military or something. We can go back to Band of Brothers. There's always going to be a big stage in your life where it's time to shine. And the guys that have been through those stages, they're adapted to or I don't want to say desensitized, but I can't think of a better word, but they're just equipped for it because they've gone through big stage events.
They've been uncomfortable so many times.
Exactly.
It's now comfortable.
Exactly.
All right, last question. What's your favorite baseball card of all time?
Of all-time baseball?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, in case you don't know, Mike Zadick was a huge baseball card collector as a kid. I discovered this about him in Denmark. And we talked about Honus Wagner.
Yeah, we did. Tobacco card. Honus Wagner. My favorite card in baseball got stole from my house when I was in college. My house in Montana got broke into, and our safe got robbed, and I had all my good cards in there. And it was actually my football card of Joe Montana. It was my football card. It was my favorite card of all time. My favorite baseball, it was probably the one I had. It was a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie.
Oh, the Upper Deck?
Yeah, the Upper Deck.
Yeah.
89.
Yeah, that was the first one. First Upper Deck card ever made.
And it was like it was like supposed to be big money.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's worth right now, probably $20.
You know what else was big that year was the Ozzie Canseco card, because they're like, oh, we got Jose Canseco. Now here's the Ozzie Canseco rookie card. It was like, ooh, it was worth $5 in Beckett. Ooh, price guides.
Yeah,
I
have some awesome price guides. My Beckett my last Beckett, I think I probably quit doing cards about 1990. I was 12 years old, 13. But that Beckett had my Ken Griffey Jr. at like $75 at that time. I was thinking, man, when I get to like 40, this thing's going to be worth like $5,000.
My mom came out after we had, my daughter was born about 2 weeks ago, and my mom came out and she asked me, she asked me two things. One, what do you want me to do with these Atari 2600s that are in the attic? I said, keep them. I will make them work. I have a man cave. I'm going to do some totally retro gaming here when I get my man cave built. And two, what about all those baseball cards? Do not touch them. I've got 100,000 cards, I think.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's one of those things. So, yeah. So
my mom gave me that same call.
It's like, Mom, you're retired. Don't touch, because where I'm from in Pocosin, man, we're going to worry about stuff flooding with it. Hurricanes, like, keep them in the attic.
Yeah.
Don't put them on the floor anywhere.
Mine are all in raised sections of the closets. Yeah. They cannot be on the floor. It has to be on the raised shelving.
Oh, man. Anyway, that's how we end up things here. Mike Zadick, officially part of the staff. We will talk to Derek St. John on the next episode, probably, and depending on what Kevin Dresser says. But thanks for listening here, Mike. It's Fargo. Let's go watch some wrestling.
Let's do it.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.